I'm Charlotte Curtis, Head of Adult Services with your Livingston Parish Library, and we're here with another episode of our Community Heroes and Helpers series. Today, we're at the Livingston Literacy and Technology Center over by Walker High School, and we're here with a school resource officer. You're going to meet him in just a minute. He's showing his Wildcat pride because he's wearing his mask so that he can keep us safe. But in a minute, he's going to be able to take it down since we're all back, way back over 6 feet from him. So today, you can unveil now, ta-da! We have School Resource Officer Deontony Williams, and he's going to tell us about the School Resource Officer program and everything that he does to help keep everybody in Livingston Parish safe. First, thank you very, very much for coming and talking to us today. And I know that this is very special, a special interview, because you know our PR manager.
Yes, ma'am, I do. We graduated high school together.
And what high school was that?
Walker High School.
Okay. Go Wildcats, right?
Right.
Okay. So, how long have you been in law enforcement?
Been in law enforcement since '07, so probably been 14 years.
Okay. And what made you want to go into law enforcement?
Most of us get into law enforcement because we want to help people. So that was one of the main drivers for me. I love my community, and I just wanted to make it a safer place. I wanted people to feel comfortable. I wanted people to see people in the community that they know. I went to school at Walker High School. I grew up in the Walker community, so I wanted people to feel safe with me.
I know that I always feel safe when I'm driving around Livingston Parish, because if I've had car trouble, all I have to do, it seems like, is pull over to the side of the road and there's a deputy there in no time just to check and make sure that I'm safe. So I know I appreciate that. So I know that in law enforcement, you don't always think that that's what you're going to be doing, helping old ladies with car trouble. But I know you do that. I know I've heard stories about you rescuing people when they lock their keys in their car. So a typical day for you, though, now that you're a school resource officer, and that's fairly recent, right? Because you weren't a school resource officer at the beginning, correct?
Correct. For 12 years, I was in patrol. That's responding to calls to people's house to take care of whatever problems they may have. The last 2 years, I've been doing school resource. It's a little different, and you have to rethink the way you approach law enforcement when it comes to dealing with juveniles and dealing with kids. So now it's more of a mentorship. It's if a kid make a mistake, you have to understand that they're a kid and that sometimes they do things they shouldn't do, and they may not fully understand what their choices mean. And it's our opportunity to, at that point, if they have a real good relationship with you, which is what I try to have with my kids, to teach them at that point, to be a mentor to them.
I like what you said about your kids. When we were talking earlier before we started filming, you talked about how you like to go and have lunch with your kids, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Why do you think that's so important?
These are little adults. The same way you can see if someone's being fake, they can see if someone's being fake. So if you really don't love them, if you really don't care for them, you aren't really there for them, they can see it, they can sense it. So once they see that, you spend time with them, you try to learn who they are, you play games with them, you give them life advice. You'll see that they're coming around, they're going to ask you questions, questions that they probably should be asking their parents, but they feel comfortable talking to you about. It just opens up that communication. It kind of breaks down the wall between law enforcement and the community. It's more of a mentorship at that point.
Sometimes I think it's easier to talk with someone not in your family. So it's good to have a responsible adult like you that's there to help. You've got some children yourself, don't you?
I do. I have 2 kids. I have a 7-year-old girl and a 14-year-old boy.
Good. So you got experience then dealing with some of the trials and tribulations that can arise between children and parents. How has COVID made your life more challenging right now?
So COVID's kind of, the kids have kind of gotten used to having a lot of contact with me, fist bumps, high fives, to some kids a lot of hugs. They're used to that contact. So at this point, sometimes I have to, you know, especially the smaller kids, you have to remind them that, hey, we got to keep distance, we can't do that. And they're not very happy about keeping distance. You know, they love me just as much as I love them.
Right. How many schools, I know that you're the school resource officer, how many schools are you responsible for?
I'm personally responsible for 8 campuses.
8? How can you possibly do 8 campuses?
It's difficult, but no downtime. It's my day starts at 6:30, and I'm pretty much busy from 6:30 to 3:30 or 4, depending on what time, which elementary school I'm at before they completely dismiss.
So you would start the day off at one school, and what would you be doing there?
Firstly, I start at Walker High School, doing traffic on 190.
Right.
The parents are dropping their kids off, so helping them get on 190 safely. After I leave Walker High School, I try to get to one of my elementary schools, and I take the kids' temperatures and kind of pep them up while they're getting out of the car, trying to, you know, help them have a better day, put a smile on their face. Then I move to my junior highs, and I'll go to each one of those at different times and try to interact with some of the kids as much as I can. And then during lunchtime, I try for the most part to get to the high school. A lot of kids, a lot of interactions, and those kids need special attention around that time. They may be open to talk about problems that they're having. So I take that opportunity to interact with majority of the kids at lunch. And then the rest of the day, it's traffic and trying to get to the schools and interact with as many kids as I can.
You mentioned problems, and earlier when we were talking, you mentioned that a big problem that you saw that a lot of kids had was with bullying. So, do you think that it's worse?
Bullying is definitely worse than when it was when I was coming up. Social media is good for certain things and it's bad for other things. There's no way for kids sometimes to get away from bullying. And you know, once a lot of times they'll open up, they'll kind of tell me exactly what's going on. And a lot of times it's a form of bullying. Like I said, they can't get away from it because it's on social media. They go home, they see it, and it's hard to tell a 15-year-old to not look at Facebook or not look at Instagram or not look at TikTok or whatever the case may be. It's in their face, it's in their life. It's hard for them to get away from it. Summertime, they still have social media. When I was growing up, if there was bullying going on, you got away from it. You know, by the end of the day, you didn't see that person again. During the summer, you would go 3 months without seeing that person. Or people, whoever it may be, but now it's all the time. So it's definitely something that's picked up. It's causing a lot of the kids to have self-esteem issues, and that's one of the things I like to see. If I see them walking around and they, you know, look a little down, I definitely spend time with those kids. I like to talk to them. Sometimes it may take a few days for them to open up, you know, and tell me exactly what's going on. And whenever they do, you know, open up and tell me, I do my best to try to help them out as much as possible. Because I don't want a kid to feel like they have no other choice but to do something that's not good for them. That's
great. That's really great. I'm glad that you're there to talk to them and give them some strategies for coping if they're in a situation where they're being bullied. Because you're right, it's just about impossible to get through the day without social media. The bad thing about that is, you know, when we were growing up, even if you had to deal with a bully, it was a handful of people that were involved. The way things are now, when something gets posted on Facebook, it can get hundreds of views, and that's just terrible to think about, to have that many people reading something bad about you. So, I know what I wanted to ask you. If you're a school resource officer, you're wearing a lot of stuff that could be scary. Would you mind explaining some of your equipment to us, please?
Oh yeah, of course. We have our vest, and it has our bulletproof vest and
Wait,
keep us safe.
that's a vest?
This is
Can you turn around and show people what it looks like? Okay, see, I thought that was your shirt, so it looks just like a regular shirt, but what kind of vest is that?
It's a bulletproof vest, so it stops small arms from penetrating.
So even a hero needs a little help because some
ma'am.
people might be trying to hurt you. All right, so you got your Kevlar vest on. What's that big old black thing up there that's, yeah, that.
Radio, so to communicate with other officers in my office, so we use our radios to communicate with each other.
And it's right there all the time.
Correct.
And then on your belt, oh, that's another radio.
No, this is a taser.
That's a taser?
That's a taser.
Okay. And I know that you must not have to use that very often, but it's good to know.
In my 12 years, I've used it twice.
Really?
So it's
Not at
not
schools.
something, never at schools. It's, when I was in patrol, it's something I very rarely use.
And you have all of this on because even if you're out of school, you're still a Livingston Parish deputy. So you're dressed just like any other Livingston Parish deputy.
Correct.
Because you could be called from directing traffic to something else. It's just not your primary, it's not your first job anymore.
Right. Like I said, we listen to the radio. Things might happen that's close to the school that an officer may need backup for whatever reason. We can respond to that, obviously, if there's something that needs to be done. And also if something happens on campus, someone comes on campus and they're trying to hurt a child.
You're going to keep them safe.
That's definitely something I'm prepared to do, I'm equipped to do. So they want to make sure we're equipped with everything that we need.
That's great. That's really great. If you could tell the people that are watching this one thing about what you do on your job, what would that be?
My favorite thing is interacting with the kids and giving them an opportunity to express themselves. I can remember growing up, we didn't have a relationship with police. We didn't have a bad relationship, we just didn't have a relationship at all. Something I wanted to do, I wanted to change. I wanted these kids to see the police officer, but also Deputy Williams, who I am, and that I'm there for them, and that I care for them, and that they're law enforcement officers that would do anything to help them as much as possible. I want them to know that I'm there for them 100%. Good, bad, ugly. If something happens and they do something wrong, it doesn't make them a bad person. I'll do whatever I need to do as far as paperwork-wise, but at the end of the day, I'm going to love them no matter what. I'm going to support them no matter what, and I'm going to be there for them no matter what. So that's one of the things that I was missing growing up, that we didn't have that connection with law enforcement. I want these kids to know that we are here for them.
That's good. I appreciate you explaining it that way. That was a great way to tell people about why you do what you do. Okay, well, thank you very much for taking time out of everything that you have to do. And now that I've listened to you tell me everything that you do, I can tell you I really, really appreciate you giving us some of your time today. So again, this was our today's community hero, who was School Resource Officer Deontony Williams, and Charlotte Curtis from your Livingston Parish Library. And until next time, goodbye.